Today we're gonna cover what is by mine and many other shooters' opinion the absolute most criminally underrated striker fire pistols of all time. This is the APF Strike 1 manufactured in Italy by Arsenal Firearms. If you look at the modern polymer handgun market, you will see an industry dominated by a singular 40-year-old formula. A tilting barrel, a high slide profile, and a standard striker fire chassis. This is a formula that works, a formula that has won global military contracts and floated civilian holsters. But this formula not only is quite boring, it also comes from compromise. Beneath this unassuming, almost retro-styled Italian aesthetic lies an engineering marvel that had quietly turned up the standard blueprint. It is arguably the most mechanically futuristic striker fire pistol ever made. It has a non-tilting barrel, the lowest bore axis in a polymeric striker fire pistol, and its patent mechanism called speed lock combined to its almost non-existing feed ramp allows the pistol to shoot phenomenally fast. This whole strike thing was born in the famous valley of Gardone, Brescia, literally in front of one of the oldest firearms company in the world, Beretta. At the beginning, we claimed the underrated status by others. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, considering that 90% of the famous gun tubers in the world has personally reviewed this gun back in its 2011 world launch and later on, and most of them has said incredibly good things about it. Colin Noir, Forgotten Weapons, Such, Iraq Veteran, TFB-TV, Classic Firearms, Vickers Tactical, The Humble Marksman, and the list could go on and on. Remember this detail because it will be crucial when we will be attempting define its final success and the current status. The origin of this pistol comes from an engineering solution to a common user problem. Back in 2009, while the world chased modular grips, frames, and static surface cuts, a team from engineers in Italy asked a deeper, purely physics-based question: how do we eliminate the muzzle flip entirely? And to understand how the Strike 1 draw is supposed to solve this problem, we have to dig deep into the concept of bore axis, which in simple words is nothing but the distance between the center line of the barrel and the web of the shooter's hand. When the standard handgun fires, the explosion pushes the slide backward. Because the barrel sits high above your grip, that linear energy acts as a lever, forcing the muzzle to snap upwards. For instance, Glock managed a relatively low bore axis, whereas Sig Sauer P320 famously sits much higher. But the Strike 1 boasts a bore axis of just 12 millimeters. That is the lowest in any production striker fire pistols in existence. How do they achieve this without slide crushing the shooter's hand? By completely abandoning the century-old Browning tilting barrel system. It is arguably the most mechanically futuristic striker fire pistol ever made. It has a non-tilting barrel, the lowest bore axis in a polymeric striker fire pistol, and its patent mechanism called speed lock combined to its almost not existing feed ramp allows this pistol to shoot phenomenally fast. Nearly every modern handgun relies on barrel tilting downwards to unlock from the slide during recoil. The Strike 1 doesn't tilt. It utilizes a brilliant proprietary system known as the speed lock, where a lightweight dropping locking block drops straight down just a few millimeters to unlock the slide. The barrel itself stays perfectly horizontal, moving back and forth on a completely linear plane. The physical implication of this are just staggering, to say less, and it potentially opens the door for the newest generation of striker-fired pistols that will be built with physics in their advantage rather than against. In other words, because the barrel never tilts, the recoil impulse is entirely horizontal. There is no vertical vector, no rotational force trying to twist the gun out of your hands. The energy pushes straight back into your palm and down your forearm. The muzzle doesn't flip. It simply vibrates, staying flat on target. When you shoot the Strike One next to its contemporaries, the difference isn't subtle. It is immediate. A standard polymer gun feels like an explosion you have to tame. The Strike One feels like an inline engine cycling flawlessly. Because the barrel doesn't tilt, mechanical accuracy is infinitely superior. The barrel returns to the exact same concentric point every single time, eliminating the minor structural variants found in tilting designs. Furthermore, the slide can be made incredibly thin and light because it doesn't need vertical clearance to accommodate a tilting chamber. Yet, if the physics are so flawless, why isn't this gun in every holster? Because mechanical perfection demands a specific type of discipline, and as you can imagine, being this an imported gun from Italy, the businesses that have run this platform for years are not surely free of drama.
Because I know these guns were out in the US market for a while, they left, and now they are back full speed with all
the litigations with its original inventor and the business partner related brought the marketing effort for this platform from 100 to literally 0 and left it hanging wandering in people's brains for over 8 years without an importer. After wasting millions of dollars in this,
and going around SHOT Show, there's like these humongous banners. If some of you guys were there, you probably saw them. You know, Arsenal, Strike One,
Still, just 1 or 2 years later, the handgun was not imported into the US, leaving us out wondering what the actual flying shoot is going on here. And the answer will always remain the same. Drama after litigations, after drama, after another importer swap. Officially making Strike One the most underrated pistol to Strike One the most overrated and wanted pistol that nobody can buy. Drama and jokes apart, fast forward the craziness keeps it up until finally American Precision Firearms brought it back into the US around the second half of 2022. So coming back to the reasons why, another is that it's definitely not a set it and forget it combat brick. The tight, linear tolerances of the speed lock system mean it must run clean and meticulously maintained. Carbon buildup that a low tolerances duty gun would easily chew through can cause performance degradation here. It's a gun that demands to be looked after. And that's also why most of the time this pistol is used for competitive shooting. Furthermore, it is a product of an older design ethos. From an outside, it doesn't look like a sci-fi laser gun. It has a traditional, almost retro Italian aesthetic that masks its futuristic interior. In a modern market obsessed with micro red dots, the base Strike One is notoriously difficult to configure as optic ready due to its ultra-thin slide profile and internal geometry, where the firing pinholes are exactly the width of the RMR footprints holes. The problem is partially resolved with their newer generation post-2022, where every model line, except for the old basic series, come already paired up with a factory optic RMC shield footprinted plate. Tony system also makes the two famous plate multi-red dots also for this gun, allowing you basically set any red dot at a trade-off of 1/8 of an inch tall optic base plate. You also won't find endless rows of holsters and drop-in triggers at your local gun store for the Strike One. The aftermarket support is relatively small if you compare it to mass-diffused platforms like Glock and Sig, but for those who understand what this pistol is, a highly dedicated niche ecosystem has stepped up as well, granting pretty much everything you may need. Companies like Tony System and Ghost Holster in Italy design gorgeous ultra-premium competition components specifically tailored to unlock the Strike One's racing DNA, and in the United States, American Precision Firearms backs the platform with top-notch, highly attentive boutique customer support, ensuring owners are never left stranded without support. Since also these components are all imported from Italy, it would be a lie to say that every color and every model is always available all year long. But if the worst case scenario, few months wait is not a deal breaker, you'll still get anything from the official Barella supplier manufacturer Tony System, which ends up giving to this platform a real compelling aftermarket ecosystem. For the sake of keeping nerding out on the platform system, another very distinct feature of the Strike One are its long frame rail that will keep a faster, smoother shooting cycle. And speaking of cycling, let me zoom in and out here, highlighting for you how different is the locking block and how is light years ahead if compared to the regularly most diffused Browning cam. When you pull a trigger on a conventional handgun, you will witness the Browning cam system, a design where a sloped slot beneath the chamber forces the entire mass of the barrel to tilt downward at 3 to 5 degrees angle to unlock from the slide. The Strike One completely obliterates this paradigm. Inside the chassis, the barrel remains entirely horizontal, shifting its duty to separate ultra-lightweight 10-gram U-shaped locking block. This block drops vertically along precise, unyielding tracks machined directly into the steel frame inserts. By isolating the drop motion to this tiny component rather than forcing the entire barrel to tilt against gravity, the mechanical architecture eliminates upward torque at its physical source. This elimination of vertical movement drastically accelerates the gun's lock time, the exact duration between the primer ignition and the breech opening. Because the slide doesn't have to wait for heavy barrel to complete downward tilting arc, the physical unlocking process happens at a blistering, highly efficient velocity. Yet, engineering is always a game of managing chain reactions. A cycle this fast means the slide moves rearward with so much speed that the firing pin must retract instantly. Otherwise, it would drag across the face of the ejecting case, causing a dangerous mechanical malfunction known as primer shear. This pure linear barrel travel yields another profound theoretical advantage, particularly when configuring the weapon as a suppressor host. On a standard tilting barrel handgun, hanging a heavy silencer off the muzzle ruins the cycling physics, requires a mechanical cheat known as Nielsen device or booster to physically kick the barrel backward so it can tilt and unlock. The Strike One doesn't care about the weight hanging off the muzzle because the barrel never has to lift the weight upward. The purely horizontal stroke creates a fundamentally more efficient platform for direct threat suppressors, minimizing mechanical stress and keeping the system running super flat. That smooth horizontal stroke is further stabilized by the slide's unique mass distribution and the rail architecture. Because the barrel never tilts up the slide's roof, the slide profile can be kept incredibly shallow and thin, keeping its reciprocating mass packed tight and exceptionally close into the center of mass of the entire gun, rather than riding on the tiny stamped metal tubs found in standard polymer handguns. This low-profile slide rides along exceptionally long. These extended rails guide the slide on its purely linear path, virtually eliminating the lateral play, frame flex, and shifting tolerances that plug traditional designs during high-velocity cycling. Finally, this geometric rigidity radically changes the dynamic of the ammunition feeding cycle. In standard handguns, the feed ramp tilts dynamically as the gun cycle, meaning the angle at which the cartridge transitions from the magazine into the chamber changes slightly depending on the exact position of the slide. If the strike one, because the barrel is completely stationary on the vertical axis, the feed ramp maintains a fixed, unyielding geometric relationship with every incoming round. This ensures incredibly consistent textbook cartridge feeding while completely eliminating any vertical barrel movement that could throw off the concentricity of the bullet as it seals into the rifling lance, delivering a level of mechanical accuracy that modern tilting design simply cannot replicate. Now let's dig into models and variations. Over the years, this unique mechanical ecosystem has evolved into several distinct variations. While the original full-size polymer frame Strike 1 remains a staple from home defense with its fixed rear sight and curved trigger, Picatinny front rail for flashlights or frame weight plus thumb rest, the lineup has extended dramatically to fix the historical limitation. For everyday carry, the Strike 2 shrinks the footprint down to a compact frame, stripping this weight down to 25.56 inches while introducing a flat-face trigger and a dedicated plate-cut optic-ready system that will allow you to sit any shield red dot onto the slide without having to remove the backup sights. If you look towards the duty and law enforcement roles, the Mark II keeps a full-size presence, but it adds a threaded barrel, a slightly heavier 30.41 frame, and a dovetail cut optic mount. Regarding this mode, while there is no point in extending its usage to real duty and law enforcement, the absurdly cool thing about putting this can on a barrel is that you won't have any additional vertical impulse, just horizontal back and forth, that with those extra inches on a 9mm suppressor can make incredible difference on the perceived recoil. Competitive shooting is where the platform truly pushes its boundaries. The polymeric framed strike speed brings a flat, crisper trigger and to the full-size platform using a dovetail optic cut, and the newer speed generation comes with the same new optic system of the other model and allows you to keep your rear sight while shooting optics. But for the absolute pinnacle of performance, Arsenal Firearms Italy introduces the Speed Ergal and the Speed Ergal Pro. These racing machines swap out the polymer for premium Ergal aluminum frame, dropping the flat trigger pull weight significantly to 3.31 pound while stepping up the total weight to 33.51 inches. Complete with plate-cut optic system, this aluminum-framed version variants transform the inline impulse from an underrated duty concept concept into an hyper-flat shooting competition juggernaut. The only difference between the two Ergels is the grip surface, where the Pro comes smooth, allowing custom sandpaper taping at the shooter's preference. The Ergel has a very pleasant circle stippling that, with some magnesite, will make the purchase hold nice and tight. So here we are, 2026, all these good things about the Strike One, but where do we stand now, and how this platform is actually diffused? Based on rough math, the total Strike One volume of sales over the last 10 years is approximately 5,000 units sold in the US, so it still remains an ultra niche pistol produced at what we could call a boutique manufacturing volume for a polymeric striker fired. It's a pretty absurd number if you consider that the platform, like Alien, just to mention another low-bore axis-focused platform, sells roughly 1,000 guns a year, and their cheapest model runs at $3,000. But the main difference between the two here, in my opinion, is brand consistency versus I-name fragmentation. Where Alien has broken through clean, slowly with a premium tire full aluminum body, only the same name continuously in time, the Strike One has suffered severe brand assassination, slamming its name from Strike One to Salient Arms to Type B, made as a clone by the same old Arsenal co-owner, to APF Strike One, the current, ultimately receiving interference from Italy with a brand new name dropped called Revent that hasn't made to the US yet, and keep us leaving again the whole gun community with big questions without clean answers. Well, this brings confusion by a marketing perspective. This is exact reason why, in my opinion, this makes by a rational point of view a very much underrated pistol that in the fields where it stands as almost no equals at the same price level. In conclusion, the Arsenal Firearms APF Strike One is a masterclass in mechanical purism, turbulent branding past, and business drama that kept the platform far away from his nomadic truth. Yes, it sacrifices mainstream trends to achieve absolute physical supremacy over recoil, so it's not the gun for casual enthusiasts who wants a cheap, low-maintenance appliance, but is an uncompromising machine for the purist who wants to experience handgun physiques perfected. Basically, an underrated futuristic icon hidden in a turbulent past.